Does anybody see parts, more or less, of one of our first 9 rules? Thank you. Somebody sees enough for construct a dilemma here. And there is. So, here, I'll give you this much. Is that any problem right there? We want W. Is that a problem? So all you need to do is figure out, well, we all know what this has to be, right? You got the first premise of constructive dilemma. You know what the second one is. What is it?
Either be with X.
Okay, all you need to do is figure out how to turn that that's it. That's the proof. I'll assume that you don't see right away how to get from one to the other. I mean, so you have to ask yourself, what can I do with this? This is a replacement statement. Or we miss it. Oh. So what can you do with line 2? It is a statement of De Morgan's. Ever tell you about my idea for marketing Captain De Morgan's spiced rum? You know that guy who pitches Dos Equis? That most interesting guy? So I'm going to turn him into Captain De Morgan.
Yeah.
He'll be the most logical man in the world.
Yeah.
Not the most interesting.
If you don't drink the Morgans, then you're just not doing it right.
What, that's part of the pitch? Or part? No, I have a couple things for the advertisement. His 5-step proofs are only 3 steps long. When in company, he minds his P's and Q's. And his R's and S's. He is the most logical man in the world.
That's actually pretty good.
I'm always drinking this, but when I do, I couldn't possibly be drinking anything else.
That's play on it too. Yeah, I don't understand that part of that pitch though.
Because the most
No,
interesting
when he
thing-
says stay thirsty, my
Oh,
friends. If you're thirsty, that means you're not drinking. Isn't that counterproductive?
No, stay
He wants you to
thirsty.
keep
That's
drinking.
You don't want to keep
I know, but when he says stay thirsty, that you're thirsty because you're not drinking, so
No, he's in a colloquial sense.
see, that's not logical.
He means stay
He's
alcoholic.
almost most logical.
If it makes
man in the
people
world.
consume more of their product, they keep consuming because they're still.
I heard somebody talking about what to do with this. What did you say there, young lady?
Use De Morgan's to make it curl X E wedge curl V, and then double negation to make it
Oh, wait. Well, a couple things have to happen. We want X, we have curl X, so. So what?
now use double negation to get X.
All right, getting closer. See, getting closer.
And then commutation to swap them. Plug it in.
What do we all want that for? Oh, construct a dilemma, right? Am I missing a step now? Again?
We have to get rid of the second W underneath.
Yeah, you are.
Forgot about that. Sorry. Key there is just to see construct a dilemma. Draw it up. Recognize that that conclusion is not a problem. Figure out what your second premise has to be. Turn line 2 into that. So, we want 1, 2, 3. I keep missing a step. I think that's 4. We're gonna go 1, 2. Oh. 3, 4. I guess it is 5. Again, it's absolutely crucial that you recognize much of one of our first 9 rules here. I'm going to let you look it over for a bit. It's absolutely your key in this case. Thank you. So, you draw up your constructive dilemma over here. No reason to suspect you need to change. I mean, I could tell you you're not going to be changing that first premise, but if I were in your place, I'd say, I have no reason to suspect that that's not going to be used just the way it sits there. So use that and your conclusion, you should be able to figure out what the second premise of that constructive dilemma has to be. Always, always, always. This is so similar to the last one. Constructive dilemma, you're going to figure out what the second premise has to be, this line 2 somehow has to become that second premise of your constructive dilemma. And your conclusion's all good to go. Okay, who has figured out what your second premise of constructive dilemma has to look like? I'm not going to write the whole constructive dilemma over here. What does your second premise have to be? If that's your first. Well, that's what you need to figure out. Well, I want to know exactly what that, right, but I want to know exactly, you're already figuring out how to get there. I want to know what the second premise of that constructive dilemma has to look like. If you have the first one, you always have the second one. Don't you? What? There's more. Agreed? Okay. You have to find some way to get from here to there. I did it wrong.
I think I just did 6.
You mean just 4 steps instead of 5? One. Oh. I agree. All right, let's assume you don't see how to do that. You do have a couple steps to play around with. Isn't this obviously a statement of distribution? But it didn't come exactly from this, did it? Not as it sits right there. But you know that's a distribution statement. So I'd probably say it's got all the same letters in it. Maybe I should see what this replaced by distribution. So what would it have replaced? Do you understand what I'm asking? Oh, wait.
Actually,
What way?
you
Oops.
did it the other way around.
Sorry.
All right.
There we go. All right. So-
the switch Z and D.
It's really a matter of getting from here to there, isn't it?
Commutation?
How many?
2.
2 acts of commutation, 1 of distribution, and then execute the constructive dilemma, right? Some of us done with it? So what do we say so far? We said that premise and that conclusion are related in terms of constructive dilemma. We figured out from that first premise that the second premise of constructive dilemma has to be this, right? A disjunction of those antecedents. This is what we have to work with to get that second premise. It might not be immediately clear how you get from here to there. It should be clear that that itself is a distribution statement, which would have come from this. When you have a look at that, it's real simple to see how you get from here to that, and then just replace it. So what do we need to commute? Both the dot and the wedge?
Or you can do the dot and then do the distribution and then do the dot again.
Then commute that dot?
Yep.
That could be done.
Or that wedge, sorry.
Right. I think most people would probably arrange this in that manner. I understand what you're saying there. That could be done. Yeah, you could do it if you want. Same number of steps though, right? Right? 2 commutation, 3 commutation, 4 distribution, 1, 5 constructive dilemma. I think I'll let you supply that notation. There's enough here to suspect one of our first 9 rules. The whole thing, everything, all together. There's enough to suspect. Yeah, there's enough. Tell you what else is kind of hinky. You've got a bunch of statements here that are obvious replacement statements. See, that's one of our transposition statements. That might happen. This whole thing is exportation, isn't it? This whole thing is exportation. This right here, it's a De Morgan statement. This whole thing is a transposition statement. Now, a lot has to be done here. I'm not even sure I can figure out how many steps this is. Let me see. That's definitely going to happen, so that's one. Two, three. Gee, I'm a little bit confusing. Maybe just 4 steps here. That's definitely 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Maybe 5 steps. Let's see if we can take it bit by bit. Let me ask you this. Is there anything here that tells you which one of these premises has to be the first premise of our hypothetical?
G.
Yeah.
So you know that you're gonna have to swap it and get number 2 on top.
So you've got to have G not only in that first premise, but it's got to be over here all by itself. Right? So that whole statement right there is subject to replacement by transposition. And that's going to accomplish a big part of what we need for a hypothetical syllogism. It's going to get G all over there by itself in the antecedent position. That's going to give us clues about what our other premise has to look like. So I think the first thing you should do is replace line 2 by transposition. How will you do it? Okay, you're close. Are you writing things down? Nobody else? Or I'll wait till you're done. I'm so confident that this is going to work. I'm going to go ahead and do it in our proof. Huh? So let's go ahead and put this in here. You know what we know has to be here? Just by the nature of hypothetical syllogism. If P then Q, if Q then R, there.
E.
Thank you. So this premise right here, it's got to be manipulated. But I'll tell you, we know this. E has got to be all by itself in that consequent position. It's not going to happen all at once. Then you could do it in 2 steps.
Yeah, sort of.
progress? Is anybody taking a step? It's not going to happen all at once. Any ideas? I don't think you want to do exportation right now.
Transposition.
On what? Who's talking? On what? What line?
Line one?
The whole thing?
No,
This? I'll give you that. Hey, E's over there. You're on your way. Now can we get E all by its lonesome? What?
The transition of O would be F, E, F. Oh, no. So I just
No. Can we get E all by itself in the consequent position? Exportation now? See? Shaping up. Let's see what we have so far. Still not ready for hypothetical syllogism. Close. Does it matter what dot we commute? Tate. You can commute this, or you can commute this, right? Sloppy. Three, six? Good. Man, look at number 10. Confidence builder coming up. 3 steps. Format. Oh, what numerical order? The numbers matter. Are you talking about these ones? They matter. They gotta be in the order in which you're using those premises. Oh, yeah? What does that look like to you guys? Find out the least you know has to happen. Fix that up. That'll tell you what your first premise has to look like. Well, you guys, this one is very easy, yes? What are we doing? Are you done? Who's done? We agree this virtually hypothetical syllogism as it sits there, right? Okay, well, did you have a look at it as hypothetical syllogism? You know that has to be the case. You know that has to be the case. See, for all we can tell, we don't know what has to happen to this. But we know what has to happen to that second premise, right? What? No. What? Huh? What? O has to be all by itself in that consequent position. No. Huh?
Hypothetical solution.
Well, that's the last step.
You mean to get it there? Oh.
Expert.
Export
recording?
You accomplish one thing at a time. So that means we know what this has to be. What?